Many of you are aware that Larry Elder, black conservative, has been around in this field for a long time in politics, and he's actually running for governor of California now. So kind of crazy when you have a black conservative that's actually doing this because of the whole recall against Gavin Newsom now. But Larry Elder is one of the kind of the front runners in this entire race that's going on right now. And I know a lot of people don't exactly agree with some of the things they've heard from him recently, and I haven't either. He is running in California, folks. He's not going to win in California if he's going along with his own personal beliefs. I think he's playing politics, but that's a little bit beside the point, because the LA Times thinks that Larry Elder is the new face of white supremacy. I mean, seriously, this black conservative is now the one that is responsible for everything in the world that's wrong and with white supremacy. That's what they're trying to claim, at least in this particular situation. So this writer of this article is completely out of her mind. Completely. So she says in their quote, "Like a lot of black people, though, I've learned that it's often best just to ignore people like Elder. People who are, as my dad used to say, skin folk, but not necessarily kinfolk." I hate that. I hate that statement. I really do. Because what they're basically saying here is, you know what? Because Elder, he may be black. Sure, he may be black, but he's not really black. Because black is about being a set of beliefs, right? I mean, that's what they're saying, right? That being black is a lot more than just skin color. So you're telling me that as long as a white person is voting the same way as black people do and agreeing with you in every way, that they're all of a sudden black? Of course they wouldn't say that. But they're very quick to say that Larry Elder isn't really black because he doesn't agree with me. These are today's supposedly tolerant Democrats right now. I mean, she sounds like Joe Biden. If you don't know if you're voting for me or Trump, then you ain't black. I mean, that's basically what this sounds like. Is that unless you agree with me 100%, you aren't really black. Maybe you can't possibly care about black issues at all because you don't agree with me. I mean, that's a ridiculous statement to make. But you have these people do this all the time, okay? So she goes on to say, "I won't lie, few things infuriate me more than watching a black person use willful blindness and cherry-pick facts to make overly simplistic arguments that whitewash the complex problems that come along with being black in America." And of course, my question to this is, what exact problems is she referring to in America that aren't perpetrated by black people themselves? I mean, once again, they're trying to find the blame. Larry Elder's basically usually saying, hey, maybe you should fix your own problems before you try to start blaming others, because your own problems are the things that are really affecting you the most. Which he's not lying by saying that. But this lady obviously disagrees with that and feels that we'd rather be victims in this entire situation. So she's making these statements also assuming that somehow liberal policies have benefited Democrats or benefited black people at all. They haven't. I mean, let's look at California, for example, folks. I mean, all we have to do is simply look at the facts. At what point have liberal policies from Democrats actually worked to help black people? I mean, I'd love to ask her, name one Democrat policy that has helped black people at all. You've been voting the same way for 50 years and you have all of these problems. Maybe, just an idea, maybe you should think about voting a different way. Maybe somebody has a better solution than the one that you have that you think is going to work, and it hasn't worked. It never will work. I mean, we know it's not going to work because as we can just simply look at the bad policies there. But she goes on to say, perhaps out of spite or perhaps out of an insatiable need for attention, Elder opposes every single public policy idea that's supported by black people to help black people. This has been true for decades, but it's particularly problematic given the racial reckoning following the murder of George Floyd. Now, once again, maybe black people don't know what's best for them. Maybe we should be looking at that. I mean, she's acting like just because black people voted for it, that all of a sudden it's the de facto good thing for them. It hasn't worked for them. I mean, it literally has not worked for them, but yet she's using that as a way to say they must do this. But she continues, and she says, if he's elected, the task force studying reparations for black Californians would be toast, as would yet unsigned bills to allow police officers to be decertified for misconduct, whatever that's supposed to mean, and to support community-based alternatives to 911. So basically what she's saying right there is that reparations, even though they have no way to prove who's black and who's not black and who actually had ancestors that were slaves or anything like that, we need to put that into place. That's what's really actually important. Meanwhile, also basically saying, I stand with the boss of the police. When they talk about this is once again the left using words to cover things up about what they really mean. She's saying that they need to support community-based alternatives to 911. Community-based alternatives to 911 means getting rid of police entirely and relying on your community to police itself, which has never worked, by the way. The same community with high crime as it is, that's supposed to automatically police themselves. Meanwhile, they don't even like the Second Amendment. So it's not like you're going to be able to have a gun. I mean, it really boggles my mind. Once again, these policies hurt black communities more than anything else. And yet, she's the one trying to push this as if she knows best. I'm not going for that. Because the fact is that it's people like her that misunderstand what it is that Larry Elder is actually trying to say. They're so focused on the Democrat narratives that have not worked for them in forever that they're blinded to what's actually going on. Meanwhile, they hate Larry Elder. They think, and she's saying he's basically a white supremacist because he doesn't agree with me. Once again, what do you have to lose? Things couldn't be worse in California right now. Things couldn't be worse in some of these other Democrat-run states. Maybe, just maybe, you should hear him out. Give him a try. Let his things fail, and then we can talk about it. But the fact is that that's not what she's focused on at all. It's all about trying to demonize Larry Elder as the worst person on earth, given the fact that, once again, none of her policies, none of the Democrat policies have ever worked in favor of black people at all. It only made things worse. When she's talking about this stuff with the police, though, really she's just saying, hey, look, you know what? I'm going to take an already crappy place to live in like California and make it even more crappy. I want it to be really bad. That's basically what's going on. The thing, too, is that the polls are actually showing that nearly half of likely voters supporting the recall Newsom actually are or have Larry Elder in the lead amongst the replacements. So they're obviously scared of this guy. I mean, the more prominent he becomes, the more scared they get. And that's what this is about. They're afraid that this actually might wind up happening as a result of this. And the thing is that if defending the Constitution and believing that all men are created equal constitutes as white supremacy, then I don't see what's so bad about that at all in that situation. Because the left is using that, saying that, oh, they're constitutionalists and you believe that all men are created equal, then you're a white supremacist. If you're a Christian, you're a white supremacist. Okay. By their definitions, I mean, that could almost be anybody. Then it's not that bad or that big of a deal. It's not evil in the sense that the way that they're trying to use it to define it and who they're applying it to. It's not even what it used to mean. Once again, they're literally calling a black man a white supremacist. How does that work? Exactly. So once again, you have the situation that really needs to be rectified, and I think that what they're scared, and I think that Larry Elder actually has a really good chance at actually winning this race, becoming the governor of California, a lot better than Bruce Jenner, for example. So we'll see where this goes. This clip from the William Hall Show is sponsored by the Second Amendment Jerky Company. This is a company founded on a simple idea: make the best beef jerky available and donate to the efforts and organizations that help support the Second Amendment. And let me tell you, this is awesome beef jerky. No gimmicks. Go to 2ajerky.com to support the Second.